ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wack and Trash Recap, the movie recap podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Mitchell.
And I'm your host, Zach Olson.
And today we are recapping the Caine Mutiny, which was a suggestion sent in by Jonathan. So thank you so much for your suggestion. And if you are Jonathan or anybody else and you want to send a suggestion, you can email us at wackandtrash@gmail.com.
Hopefully you like this episode so that you feel inspired to send in your recommendations.
Yeah. Now, the Caine Mutiny is a movie from the 50s. And it really is like every other movie in the 50s where it's a guy and he's like, I'm going to go to war, darling. She's like, please don't. And he's like, I got to. And then he goes to war and he changed and he comes back. He's like, I want to marry you. Let's do it. And
she's like, okay.
Yep. So.
And then everybody's smoking for whatever reason.
Yeah. So that's just basically this movie as well as a host of other movies. But we'll go into more detail now as to what actually happened in the Caine Mutiny.
Is it Caine Mutiny or is it Mutiny on the Caine?
It's the Caine Mutiny.
Take it away, Stephen.
Alrighty. Well, it starts off with a long intro, as most movies of this generation do. And then we're at an academy for a graduation for the Naval Academy officers.
From what I can tell, like everybody is graduating either out of college or high school into the Navy.
No, because
went through like a Navy boot camp, I guess.
No, because later he's like an officer. He's above other people. So I think this is an officer training graduation.
At the end of the graduation speech, the colonel or whoever's giving the speech, he looks at the students who are graduating. He says, "Now, good luck and good hunting." Which is a really weird way to talk about war. And also, which war is this? Is this Vietnam? The Vietnam War?
World War II.
That was World War II. Yep.
Yeah. In the beginning, that's a good note. I'm glad you said that, though.
Yes.
It would just take place in 1944, I think. So then Willie sees his parents. He says, "What up?" And side note, the mother is an old white lady.
Yes.
And she looks like the same as every other old white lady I've ever seen in a 50s movie. Like, I'm pretty sure they hired two actresses to play all of them.
To be fair, I think it's mainly because of like a European style for like the haircut, and so that was just kind of like the thing back then. Today we have a lot more diversity with like the ways that we cut our hair and whatnot, but it's just like the way you wore your hair. Boom. Blueprints.
I don't know.
It was really easy to just wake up and do your hair as a woman back in the 50s, I guess. You knew what you were going to go for.
Yeah, you were like, I've got only one option.
Exactly.
So, all right, fair enough. Now, before Willie sees his parents, that's our protagonist, he sees his lovely lady, and she's like, hello, but then she sees his parents, and he chooses his parents over her, and basically is like, you don't need to meet them.
He's like, he signals to her, he's like, I'm going to meet you later or whatever. But then he's like, stay away. Don't come over here.
Right.
Which is rude.
Yep. And so then later happens, and we're at this like nightclub.
I can't believe you're in love with me. Although she sounds a lot more feminine.
Yeah, but that was just a great song. And there's a band playing, and they are rocking Hawaiian shirts, and Willie goes up to the woman who is the singer, and afterwards they're all like talking, and she's like, why don't you marry me?
Is he into it? Is he down for it?
No, I think he's kind of like, I don't know about that, darling. My mother wouldn't approve, or something like that.
Yeah, and then she's like, you know what? Never mind. I take it back. On one of your last nights here on the shores, you should spend your time with the woman you love the most, your mother. Boom roasted.
Got him. And I think that's basically what he does. He showed up the next day to the ship and is getting sent off to war, and his mother is the one who dropped him off. Mm-hmm. So, and May doesn't even show up to send him off, I don't think.
No, well, because he didn't want her there.
Right.
Well, at this point, it seems like she's kind of breaking up with him.
Yep.
That was my impression, at least.
Yep.
And then something happened to their father. I didn't actually catch that part.
I thought I saw him.
No, we don't see him. He's in the beginning of the movie, and then we never see him again. So Dad is out of the picture, I guess.
But at this moment he's on. Anyway, Willie's going to Pearl Harbor, and I'll be honest, when I saw that, I was like, ooh, I think I know where this is going, and I was wrong.
Willie gets on the boat, and his mom's like, now make sure you don't volunteer. And I was like, I thought he already did volunteer. Come to later to find out, like, volunteer for more leadership is what she's saying.
Is that what she's saying?
I don't know.
I think she
volunteered
is
to,
in
like,
denial.
She's just like, don't move up in rank so they have more responsibility. Because if then, I don't know, you
I feel like if
crash
anything,
and
the
die,
higher
then it's
up
on
you
you.
are in rank, you can just turn to other people to go do your business.
Well, yeah, but then the responsibility is on you, as we'll later find out.
True. Not to spoil anything. So, Willie arrived at Pearl Harbor and he boards the Caine, which is that's the ship he's on.
And when he gets on board, he says, "Permission to board," and the sailor says, "Permission
Permission to
granted."
board.
Permission to board.
Permission to board.
Granted.
Yep. And then Willie trips and he falls into the arms of some guy and he goes, "Hey, what's the enthusiasm? Nobody's ever felt that way about the Caine before."
And then he goes around and gets introduced to people on the ship, to other sailors. One is named Steve, and he's called the Fireball because he's the one who gets it done, as we're told. And then there's like
Meatball.
Meatball. I was gonna say
Meatball's my
hamburger.
favorite.
Meatball. There's Meatball and what's his friend's name? It's like Disgrace or something like that. It's really.
I can't say I remember.
Yeah.
So he gets the tour of the ship and he meets the captain, who is not a very by the books kind of guy. No, sir. He is lazy. The ship is in shambles, but they get the job done.
They call it the junkyard of the ships or something like that.
Yeah, and they even at some point he talks about how the Caine ship is just a wandering disgrace, just like Caine in the Bible. Which is like, all right.
Fair comparison.
Yep, I see why it's named that.
It's also good to note that the Caine is a minesweeper ship.
Yeah. Now,
And so,
can you explain what that is? Because I certainly did not understand really at all.
you know, I thought I did until we saw it in action, and then I did not understand what it was. But
Well,
basically, what it does, from my understanding, is that they have these like, there's either these long wires, or it sends out like a pulse or something. But basically, it goes out in front of all the other ships, and it searches for mines. And if it finds a mine, it blows it up before any ship hits it. So basically, it's just like clearing the path so that people can get to the shore or wherever they're going safely.
this is, you compared it to a weed eater. It was a
That-
giant
okay.
spinning part that got
I
down.
don't know if that's actually what it
know,
was, because
but
after we saw
I
it.
really hope that's what it is. 'Cause that's way more exciting. So the captain's like, "Are you disappointed to be here on a minesweeper?" And Willie says,
Yes, sir. Kinda.
Well-
I am a little disappointed.
"Me too. I was also disappointed about this." And they're
But
like,
it's our duty, and we must do our duty.
Yep. Then they're having dinner, and they get,
Lunchtime is, well, dinner time. Or
it's
lunchtime.
time for food. That's all I know.
There you go.
and the message arrives.
And we learned that Tom is a man of faith. I had in my notes.
Oh, yeah. Actually, this is an important character that we should probably bring up. It's
Yeah.
Tom. He's writing a book, and he is good with words and is just a clever fella.
Pretty solid dude.
So, and he's the one who said the thing about the Caine being similar to biblical Caine. So I'm
Yes.
assuming that's why he said man of faith. Or did he call himself a man of faith?
I was getting the general vibe, and then I think that the Caine line came along, and I was like, well, at least he knows his Bible. So
Yeah, there you go. At least the first, 8 chapters of Genesis.
Well, so during this mealtime, they get a message, and the captain turns to Willie and he says, "Well, boy, now's your chance to prove where your loyalty lies," or whatever he says. And basically a note has come in that says that if the captain of the Caine approves, Willie can go off and be an officer on a battleship, which is a much more glamorous job and is something that most people in the Navy want.
Yep. And he's like, well, I think Willie is the one who is able to choose. And the captain's like, "So, what do you want to do? You want to go do that, or you want to do your duty here on the Caine?"
And then he takes 5 minutes and looks around at everybody, and they're all giving him the side eye look.
Yeah, there's one guy that he vomited in the hat earlier, but it's in his eyes, you can tell he's like, "You should just do it."
Yeah.
But Willie's like, "I'm going to stay here. I'm going to do my duty."
And good on Willie.
Yeah.
And then the captain's like, and that's all we'll say about that.
And then
Very good.
Tom is like, "You're going to regret this for the rest of your life."
And to regret it, he does. And
So-
then we go to a mine-sweeping routine, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like they're running the drill, they're getting the hang of it. At one point, Willie looks up and he's like, "The Japanese planes," and then the captain's like, "Those are the seagulls." How do you make that confusion?
There must have been a far ways away, or the boy has never been to sea. And if that is the case, he should not be a commanding
I mean,
officer.
look, I've never personally, I've never seen a Japanese World War II plane. Actually, that's probably not true.
Yeah, you
but I've
probably
never
have.
seen one out in the wild. So maybe they do look deceptively like seagulls, you know?
Well, people are talking about drones these days, so maybe it was the beginning of all that.
Oh. All right. Well, so...
The sweeping routine goes poorly.
Yep.
And they almost lose a buoy, so somebody has to jump in and grab it.
It's Steve.
It's
He's the fireball. He gets
Steve.
it done.
That's right.
Yep.
And so he eventually gets it back to the ship. Willie jumps in for whatever reason.
No, Willie did not jump in. Willie falls in.
Well,
And that's
it looked like
important.
he intentionally went into the water.
Yeah, I would have hoped so, but no, he definitely fell.
Okay, all right.
And then the oddest thing happens is after the drill, Willie is going to change, and he goes past Tom's room, and Tom makes some snarky comment as he does. And then you see, like, Willie's feet as he's changing, and, like, Tom is talking, and he takes his pants off before his shoes.
This is the second episode where people are either putting on boots before pants or taking pants off before boots.
Are we doing something wrong? Should I start taking my pants off over my shoes?
These are older films, which means we've evolved since then.
Oh, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. It's not that old.
So yes, then Willie gets called to the captain, and then he is reprimanded for misplacing a combat dispatch. Because earlier, like right before the routine, the minesweeping routine, he was told by the captain, "Hey, you're going to be the one that's taking in the dispatches like over the wire. You're going to be decoding them and like bringing them to me." Apparently, he had misplaced a combat like order, which could have been really, really bad if like they were called to active duty. But I can't remember what he says to get out of it, but basically he kind of smooths things over with the captain.
I mean, the captain writes like something in the report, but then the captain's like, "But good news, you don't like me because I'm not by the books. I'm leaving. Goodbye."
Yeah, that's right. He's not staying around
and
long.
it's a very sad sent off. Meatball gets him a watch and the rest of the crew, and he's like, "I'm not supposed to take this sort of thing." And he like throws it down, and then he's like, "Oh look, somebody left a watch here," and he takes it. You know, and I'm like, that's my kind of guy. You know.
Oh yeah.
Then they get a new captain. Captain Queeg. Captain Queeg shows up, and he is the opposite of the other captain.
He is quite a queeg.
Yes, absolutely. If whatever in your mind you think a Queeg would act like, it's probably like this.
Well, that's it.
Yep. He is just like, he's got to straighten up the ship, and he's yelling at everybody. And the first thing he does is he has Willie tell everybody on the ship, all the crew, to cut their hair to regulation length. And make sure their shirts are always tucked in. And so they're running some sort of drill, and then Captain Queeg is like, "Willie, get up here!"
And so Willie gets up there, and he's like, "What
is this? Why is his shirt not tucked in?"
Sailor, I told you to tuck your shirt in." "Oh, sorry, I'll tuck my shirt in." "No, don't have him tuck his shirt in now."
Yeah, the guy was like, "Well, you see, I have a rash," and he's like, "I don't care what your excuse is. Willie, why isn't his shirt tucked in?" And he's like, "Well, I told him. I don't know what you want me to do." And he's like, "I want you to make sure the shirt tucks in."
In the middle of this, the guy at the wheel is like, "Captain, we're about to go 360 and run over our tow line, whatever that is."
Yeah, they're like, "We're going to cut our own line," but I don't...
And he's like, "Shut up, I'm in the middle of reprimanding somebody else." And so they're like, "All right, well, I guess we're not going to disobey orders." So they just keep going, turning, and they cut their own tow line, and which looks like a buoy thing that gets cut off or something. I don't know.
Whatever it is. Well,
whatever it was important to the ship.
It was very important.
Because now the captain is on the fritz. He's kind of scared for his position. Because he's new to this.
He's like, "What?" People are like, "So we just ran over our own tow line." He's like, "What? That's not what happened. They gave us faulty ropes. And that's exactly what we're going to tell command happened." Wink, wink. And everybody was like, "This guy's supposed to be by the books, but he's lying."
Ain't nobody going to believe this guy.
Uh-huh.
So they call San Francisco, and San Francisco's like, "Come on back." And everybody's like, "Well, this guy's going to be gone."
Yep.
And that's when Willie gets to go on vacation.
So then he's going to meet May, but then his mother shows up. And you're like, "Oh, man, what is Willie going to do? Is he going to introduce his girl or what?"
He goes up, he's like, "Hello, Mom. This is May, my friend."
Yeah, he goes, "Mother, I'd like you to meet a friend of mine."
And oh my goodness, is May ever upset?
Oh,
she should be.
Yeah, that is the worst thing.
I cannot believe she did not turn around right then and walk away. I would have.
Yeah, but instead they go to Yosemite National Park, which is, I'm jealous. So they're riding horses, and then they're like, behold the fire!
A man in the distance goes, "Let the fire fall," and then a little like volcano starts
Okay, but
spewing out.
But what's even dumber is the next statement. They have like a lovely night, and they're just
All
having
romantic.
a grand old time together. They meet up for breakfast in the morning, and May is like, you know what I'd love to do? Take a long walk up to the top of the mountain. That's a hike. That's what you just described as an activity.
Willie does the stupidest thing. He proposes to her right there, and he's like, "You're here, I'm here. Let's get married."
And she's like, well, I only want you to marry me if you mean it.
And he's like, "I do," and she's like,
But do you?
"Nah, your mom is still in your life."
I don't think so.
But I mean, she doesn't really even bring that up. She's just like, "You're too attached to your mom." That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, and specifically, she's like, you're too attached to authority figures. That's what she says,
true. Yeah,
right.
That's an
So
overarching.
they're back on a ship, and they expect Captain Queeg to be gone, but he's not. And he is all there. And now Willie and Tom and Steve have started having these conversations where Steve is like, this new captain is great. He's just trying to straighten up the ship. Tom is like, he is so by the books. Like, he is paranoid and
wild.
he is crazy.
Yeah.
He's actually insane. And we need to get rid of him. And Willie is a sucker for authority, and that's why he hated the other captain. But now he's kind of like, I don't know. Maybe...
He's starting to side with Tom a little bit.
Yeah, like maybe he's not so great.
Well, and so what happens next only kind of solidifies the notion that he's crazy or insane or was it paranoid? Yeah, paranoid.
Yeah, paranoid.
Because they are called to active duty, and so they have to go out and they have to lead some of these tugboats. Is that what they're called? Like little boats that have the combat.
Yeah, like mini boats.
Yeah. So anyway, they have to go ahead of these boats and minesweep and blow up any mines so that all the military people can get to the shore safely.
Yep.
However, during this whole thing, the captain makes a very poor call, and he goes way too far ahead of the tugboats, we'll call them.
Yep.
And everybody's like, "Captain, we're too far ahead. We're too far ahead. They're going to get far behind. They're going to get off course. They're going to blow up. This is not good." And he's like, "I know what I'm doing, and I read the instruments better than everybody else." And then he looks at it, and he's like, "Yes, we're only like 1,000 meters away. Drop the marker," or whatever. And like it's like this yellow dye that like indicates where the boats are supposed to go, but like it could all disperse before they got there, and then they wouldn't know where to go. And so like it was just a very bad
that
call.
why that's bad?
Yeah.
I gotta say, it feels like they just assume. Did everybody in the 50s understand how the Navy worked?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, because I was like, they would just do things like throw dye in the water, and then I was supposed to be like, yeah,
Okay, sure.
I know how that works.
The captain makes his poor call, and then they go back, and everybody's like, "Yep, captain's insane." And so then
there's one guy starts singing a song, and it's Old Yellowstone.
Old Yellowstone. And that's when Steve walks up, and he is upset. He's like, "I don't want to hear that word again, or as you're gonna get off the ship."
Yep.
And then the captain calls all the commanding officers to a little meeting.
Yep.
And he brings them in, and he is on the fritz. He is he's wide-eyed.
Yep.
And
he's got two little metal marbles that he fidgets with, which is really like fine. But
yeah, it's just like a fidget spinner. But
yeah.
Not
But
modernized.
this is back when mental health was still a stigma.
But basically, he doesn't really apologize, but he's like,
He's
clearly,
fishing for a compliment.
well, yes, yeah. He doesn't really know how to say I'm sorry, I need help, but basically that's what he says. It's like, I know I messed up, and I could really use your guys' help to command this ship better, or to know how to communicate better with this crew. And nobody speaks up. Nobody steps forward to help the captain.
Yep.
And so he's like, "All right, well, if you guys change your mind, I will be in my quarters."
Yep.
So he heads out.
And then Tom goes, "This is what's known in literature as the pregnant pause." so this is when Tom brings up to Steve. He's like, the captain is crazy, and Steve is like, "No, he's not. Willie, what do you think?" And he's like, "I don't know. I think he might be right." And so then Steve goes and he reads one book, mental illness, and he's like, "Yep,
The symptoms are there.
Yep, and
All the
so
signs are
Steve
showing.
decides he's going to start keeping a log of all of the crazy things that the captain does.
And that's where we get a little montage of the captain doing these little, the commands that seem a little unreasonable
Yeah,
and whatnot.
and then the fiasco happens.
Bum,
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 bum, bum.
Wait, what? Oh, that
Yeah.
fiasco.
So he called. It's like 2 a.m. and Captain called all the officers to his quarters, and he is like, "Somebody has stolen the strawberries."
And everybody's like, oh, okay.
What are you talking about? And he's like, "We at dinner tonight. We had strawberries, frozen strawberries, and pie or something like that. Cake,
And
pie?
ice cream. It was ice cream, yeah.
And now I went down to get myself some frozen strawberries, and we were out, which means somebody has stolen them." And they were like, "What?" And he goes, "So I've got this jar of sand. now everybody got, and this is a quart of sand, like the quart of strawberries. And now everybody's going to tell me how many servings they had. And we're going to scoop out all of the sand, and we're going to see how much is left." So they're scooping out 2 tablespoons or whatever.
Right, it's a ladle
of
full.
sand.
Yeah,
That is equivalent, supposedly, to the amount of strawberries. So everybody's going
So
around. They're like, "I had 3 servings. I had
And
2
then
servings."
we get to the captain. He says, I had 5 servants. And he was going back for another? Another?
And after all of this, they see there is indeed still sand in the jar. So therefore, somebody has stolen the strawberry. And so he ordered the officers to launch a full-scale investigation
They have to stay up all night to do this.
to figure out who has stolen the strawberries. Mm-hmm. And they are taking, just like interrogating everybody. And at the end of the night, they go up to the captain and like, "Captain, we don't know."
We don't know where the strawberries are.
Yeah,
and he's
I'm
like,
sorry.
You know what? You guys all wasted a night. And you're like, okay, you were sleeping.
Yeah.
First of all, you should lead by example. But it's like, then he's like, you know what probably happened was somebody took the key to the kitchen and then they duplicated the key. And so now we need to go through and find all the keys on the ship and find who and label the keys and then find who has the duplicate key to the kitchen, and that will be the person that stole the strawberries.
And they're like, "What if somebody just throws their key into the ocean?"
And he's like, no.
That won't happen.
They went too much trouble to get that key. I'm like,
What?
What?
They didn't, to be honest.
No.
What you just described seems like a pretty easy process.
yes, it does. But
So
anyway,
they do this whole thing.
Yeah.
And they are like forcing everybody to strip naked.
Yep.
And do it. And everybody is just like confused. Meatball's upset. And it's a whole fiasco. And eventually they get a letter. It's one of the officers,
Yeah.
one of Willie's friend, and his wife is sick, so he's allowed to leave.
Yeah,
So
he's going back home.
And go back home. And as he's leaving, he tells them, "Hey, by the way, I already told the captain, and I would wait till it's over, but the bus boys ate the strawberries."
I saw them. I told him about it. He didn't believe me.
Yep, that's all that happened.
So this whole time they've been looking for this ghost key, while the captain knew what happened, but he still insisted that it was this key and not the bus boys.
After the strawberry investigation, Tom goes up to Steve. Steve is the executive officer. He is the next in command after the captain, and it's like, well, we gotta get this guy out of here.
He's got to be mentally insane.
Yeah.
Now,
And so there's another ship that had a higher up an admiral or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so Willie and Tom and Steve are gonna go over and basically say, "Hey, our captain is crazy. We need to change."
There's
this."
there's an article in the must read Navy handbook or whatever, and it's like Article 184, and it says that if the commanding officers believe that the captain is unable or ill-equipped to run the ship, or is mentally unstable, then it's okay for them to throw a mutiny. I mean, not without there being repercussions, but that is,
Yeah, you can throw a mutiny without it
reasonable action.
Without getting hanged, basically.
Yeah.
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 And so that's what they're gonna go try to do is be able to have permission, I guess, to be like, "Hey, he's insane." So they go over to the admiral, and as they're waiting for the admiral to come out, Tom is like, I think that's a bad idea.
Well, because they see like the entire crew of the battleship is like going like practicing their formations or whatever, and they're all like very strict and all very in formation. And he's like, "Oh snap! Like the people over here are way more strict than our captain."
Yeah, well, and he's like, not only are they super strict, but like this is a war hero. He's been like serving for 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we're gonna like get murdered for this, maybe.
If we
so
say
maybe
anything.
we should not.
Yeah.
And they decide not to. And as they're going back towards the ship, they're like, "Hey guys, you better get on over there fast. There's a big storm coming."
And they're like, "Oh boy!" So they boot scoot and boogie on back.
Yep.
And they start closing down the ship. They're putting like I don't whatever you do to close down a ship.
Yep.
Batten down the hatches, I guess.
Yep, exactly. And the storm hits, and boy, howdy, is it a biggie.
Yes, it's a really fun shot. You can definitely tell it's a miniature boat or like a little toy in like a bathtub, but it's a pretty cool effect that they have going on. They got like
and just
they
lightning
like
cracking.
they got like wave caps going on, and yeah, the ship is basically being drowned, and one of the smokestacks even get blown off.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Things are just going wild. And so it's Steve and Willie and Captain, and they are in the hall,
The command,
The bridge.
Yes, yeah, the bridge.
yeah, we know ships.
Yeah, look at you, nautical boy.
That was my nickname in high school. So they're in the bridge. Things are going crazy, and they're trying to steer the ship, and it is like about to like tip over.
Yeah, and the captain's like, "No, you gotta stay heading west by west north and bound
Yeah,
180,
30
degrees."
towards port. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a command that they were given, and Steve is like, "No, we just gotta survive. So we gotta turn the ship this other direction."
And then the captain just like freezes. He's just like, he's staring off in the distance, not responding.
He cannot do anything.
And Steve is
they're
like,
trying to figure out.
I gotta take over, otherwise we're gonna die.
Yeah, the guy steering is like, what do I even do? Like the ship is about to tip over,
Yep.
and the captain's not giving any orders anymore. And so Steve says, "Go this other way to save our lives." And then the captain snapped back in. He's like, "No, we gotta do our orders."
And then the poor guy at the wheel, he's like, Willie, what do I do?" And Willie's like, "Listen to Steve, I guess." And so then he's like, "I enact Article 184, and I am taking over command of the ship." He's like, it's mutiny! It's mutiny!
Tom shows up, and he doesn't really side with anything. Mm-hmm. He just kind of is present.
He's,
Yeah.
But
But Captain Krieg gets taken away from the main ship, and Steve steers, and they live. Krieg is like, they have committed a mutiny. And
they have.
Yep. And so they go back to shore, and basically
That's when May calls Willie, and she's like, I heard there was a terrible storm out there, and I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I don't know why I'm doing an old woman voice, but
she's a very young woman.
there's a storm out there, and I can't do woman voices.
I think I prefer the old lady.
Basically, she's like, I heard there's a storm out there. I just wanted to call and make sure you're okay. He's like, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm
By the
fine,
way,
darling.
I still love you. And she's like, yeah, but I still say no. And then she hangs up on him.
Yep. And so then we have they're
court
trying to
case.
find lawyers. Yeah, basically, they need to figure out whether or not Steve was
In the right.
to have this mutiny occur or not. And they finally get to one lawyer, and he's like, "This is crazy. No lawyer's ever gonna take this."
And they're like,
But I'll
well,
do it. And so that's what he does. They go to court, and they have a whole bunch of people come up and testify whether or not the captain's crazy. They have all of these psychologists come up.
and they're like, he is technically not medically insane.
Yep. And then the guy kind of starts like messing up with him. He's like, "Would you say that Captain Krieg exhibits these behaviors?" And he's like, "I would." He's like, "Are those not also the behaviors of somebody who's paranoid?"
He's like, "They are."
Now that's misleading.
And you're like, well, you can't say that. You're not the one who's
Yeah, but then
prosecuting.
the other, the not the defendant.
The prosecution.
The prosecution, though, constantly leading the
And
witness.
the defendant never says anything.
yeah, like
I don't know how court martials work, but
Yeah.
like I don't.
but it feels a lot like every other second the prosecution was leading the witness. Even Willie, to the point where he's like, I guess I don't know if this was correct. And Willie at the time was like totally on board.
Absolutely.
And then they bring in Tom.
AKA backstabber.
Yeah, you think he's cool, but
Well,
basically,
because here's what happened. When they were talking to this lawyer guy at the beginning, they were trying to find a lawyer. He was like, just so you guys know, anybody who like was
corroborated
into this mutiny is also guilty, and like if you're found guilty, then you will also pay the consequences.
which is being hanged.
Which is
Apparently.
I think
which I didn't
guess.
know. Would,
That's very drastic, but
that does seem extreme. But
so anyway, Tom does not want to be hanged, and so during the court case, he basically turns on Steve.
I mean, he lies, and he's like,
And he's like,
I
I didn't know about
condone
this.
this at all. But he was the one who like first put the idea out there that like I think he's crazy.
And so he's a backstabber. Nobody likes Tom anymore.
Yep. But the defendant is able to basically prove, like, to the doctor, like, you've never dealt with military people before, so your expert opinion isn't really that expert, and all of these things. And he's kind of, and then they call Captain Creed as a witness, and he just drills him.
That's
with
when
so
it
many
goes
questions
down.
where,
Yeah.
like, Creed betrays himself, really.
Yeah,
He
Creed
gets
loses
the
it.
metal balls out and starts like clacketing them and starts getting clearly like his words twisted and he's changing his story a little bit back and forth.
Yeah, a lot. That's how they win the case, is because Captain Queeg breaks down. But you also feel a little sorry for him because you're like, clearly this is like probably PTSD, whether or not they would have like medicated that back then. Like,
Yeah,
that's,
he just needed.
that's
like,
what's going
therapy.
on. Yeah, the poor guy needed some help, but they
But he
do win
wins
the
the
case. Yeah.
And Steve and the other people of the crew are all celebrating, and Tom walks in, and Steve is like, "You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here."
And he's
Tom-
like, I would have a lot of nerve if I didn't, because I needed to come apologize or whatever.
"Yeah, well, not really apologize. He just knew that the rest of the crew would know if something was up if he wasn't there."
Right.
He
But
wasn't-
Steve, even through all that, he was like, I'm not gonna tell anybody else about what you did, but you're a butt face.
Yeah, he's a class act.
Yeah.
But then the lawyer comes down, and he is drunk out of his mind, and
He's
like,
upset with the crew.
Yeah, he's like, "Congratulations, you proved he was crazy or whatever." But he was a decorated veteran of 8 years, as opposed to y'all with your like 1 year on this crap ship. I hope you're proud of yourself. And you, Tom, tell him what you did. And so the lawyer is like, he's a backstabber. He's just looking after his own skin. All these other people are gonna have like cost prices to pay and all of these bad things. And you get to go write your novel in peace. I hope you can live with that on your conscience.
And then the most important part of it all comes along. And he's like, we won the court case, but there was one very important thing that I left out that allowed us to win. Is that when the captain came and asked you guys for help, when he asked you for help, nobody spoke up. And you guys had the opportunity to make some sort of a difference right at that moment, but nobody did. And so this all could have been avoided if you guys maybe had just stepped up. But we'll never know because, nobody helped the captain.
Yep. And then he throws a drink in Tom's face, and he goes, "I'll be outside if you want to do anything. And I'm a lot drunker than you, so it'll be a fair fight." And that is so hard.
Oh, yeah. The lawyer. Oh,
The lawyer's ready to throw hands out here.
all this happens. Everybody's feeling pretty low because they won, but they didn't. They
They
should have helped
realized they
sooner.
could have done better, maybe,
Yeah.
to help. And then,
Willie goes off and gets married.
yep.
Surprisingly,
We don't really know what changed May's mind.
nothing.
Like, we know Willie has changed.
Right.
He's now is able to, stick it to authority as he kind of was in a mutiny. But
Well, so we were talking about this before we started recording the podcast, and it's like Willie is kind of the main character, but he doesn't like he kind of grows a little bit. He does grow a little bit,
He does.
but like
I would say he changed it the most.
yes, but like
But
there's
he never drives the plot at any point.
he never drives the plot, and for May, she never really sees, at least that we see, never sees like any transformation in him that would then inspire her to decide to like actually marry the guy. And so it all just kind of happens fast, and you're like, oh, it feels like it's supposed to be a happy ending, but I don't really know if it's supposed to be a happy ending.
Well,
It's
regardless, they get married,
Yeah.
and then Willie is sent off to another ship on duty, and who was his captain, but none other than the original,
The OG.
the OG captain, who was like.
I
laid
feel
back.
so sorry for that man. He spent so much time on that ship, and now he had to go back. Oh,
Well, it's not back on a Caine. It was a different ship, I think.
no, it was the Caine.
It was the Caine?
It was the Caine.
Dang, that's rough.
We get to end the movie with Willie commanding the ship out to sea.
Yeah.
Full circle. And now he's in authority.
Uh-huh.
Look at that.
Look at that, volunteering. Wow, I guess maybe.
Whoa! Light the bulb.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay, so Willie is the main character. Look at that.
Look at that. Now, what are some takeaways here?
Okay, well, first of all, takeaway is take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. As we have learned and evolved from the 50s, mental health is an important thing and is not something that should just be sucked up.
Yep.
So do that.
Amen, brother.
What's the second point, Steve?
Definitely never introduce the person that you want to be your fiance as a friend to your mother.
Unless you guys are really friendly. I don't know.
No. In no scenario should I ever bring a girl to meet my mom who I am supposedly in love with and be like, this is my friend. Like, that's just not.
It's going to send the wrong signals to her. Going to send the wrong signals to your parents.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, you're at Yosemite, and she's talking about taking a long walk up the mountain, and then you get your heart broken.
And then there's a man saying, "Let the fire fall."
And you're just like, what is happening? My life is falling apart. All because you decided to introduce your girlfriend or your fiance as a friend. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Just say, this is the person whom I am in love with, and the stars are nothing compared to her.
I was waiting for an ending for that one.
No, that
was it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the last like actual important points of the movie is to count the cost of what your success is if it comes at the downfall of somebody else.
Yeah.
The whole point is that they could have helped the captain sooner, which could have had a completely different result. Maybe not, and like that's up for conjecture, like of like what are their impact they could actually have made. But the point is they had the opportunity and they didn't take it. So. Yeah. If you have the opportunity to help somebody change before just watching them, fall apart, then maybe take action then.
Yeah. We always want to elevate the people around us rather than bring them down or do nothing and just, they're going to crash and burn.
Exactly.
And you're just like, well, it's their fault, It's like...
Take some responsibility.
Yeah. Go the extra mile, turn the other cheek.
And now that we've gotten all serious and somber on here... This has been Wack and Trash Recap, the Movie Recap Podcast. Thank you for listening to another episode.
Again, if you have any suggestions, feel free to email us at wackandtrash@gmail.com.
Like this episode was.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so much fun to participate in a movie that we've never seen or heard of before.
Yeah, so thank you, Jonathan, for your recommendation.
Yep. And now, as they say, permission to board.
Permission granted.
Permission to board.
Permission granted.
Have a good night.